Welcome to Independent Homework 3 Hints. Begin by downloading the file from the Learning Plan 3. The spreadsheet will have any available resources, such as your book or page number, listed at the top of the spreadsheet. Your independent homework focuses on exploring retirement savings. The first thing to look at is your expected wage increase each year, which you can see is cell E4. Once you've been working a few years, you'll be able to have a pretty good guess of what your annual increase will be. So in this case, we're going to leave it at 3%. Income percentage is referring to how aggressively you are invested. If you were invested in stocks, 10% is a pretty good historical indicator of what your income would be in the stock market. Okay, and then for 401k percentage, this is how much of your salary that you are setting aside, including your employer match. If your company is willing to match up to a certain percentage, I encourage you to always take advantage of it. It's basically free money, so don't turn it away. Typically, employees will set aside between 6 or 7% of their annual salary, and employers may match possibly 3%. So in our case, let's just use 10%, assuming a 7% salary contribution and a 3% employer match. And for this example, we're going to assume that our starting wages is $50,000. Okay? So the first thing to get our spreadsheet to work is we're going to take a look at our wages, and what we're going to do is apply our wage increase each year. Okay? So we can we'll look at cell H13, and we'll build our formula in here. If we want to take our annual wages, we can say equals, we'll grab the cell above, and we want that to grow by 3%. So in order to do that, I'm going to use parentheses, and I'm going to say 1 plus and we want it to grow by the 3%, okay? So you're probably thinking, well, don't you want to multiply that? And yes, I do. So I'm taking that H12 and I'm multiplying it by 1 plus the 3%, okay? Another thing you're probably thinking is like, hey, if you want to drag that formula down, we're going to have to use absolute values, and you would be correct. And we're going to use the absolute value on the cell E4 just by hitting F4 to make sure that that cell doesn't move as we drag our formula down. So let's go ahead and hit enter. Now as we drag our formula down, let's double click here, see if our formula is working the way we want it to. It looks like it is. It's taking the salary from my prior year and it's multiplying it by 1 plus the 3% to give me a 3% increase each year. Okay, so you would go ahead and drag that formula down. If we wanted to check it quick, we could also just type a 0 in here. And that makes sense. If we weren't getting a raise every year, our wages would be the same every single year. So I'm going to go ahead and click undo now that I've checked that. So now that we've got our wages set up, let's go to our beginning balance. This was the very first year that you were doing retirement contributions. You're going to start with a 0. Okay, so I wanted to kind of point that out so that doesn't throw you. But in the following years, your beginning balance should equal your prior year ending balance. So we could go ahead and drop a formula in here in row 13 and just say equals F12. Because we want to pick up the prior year's ending balance. Okay? So it's going to give us a 0 for right now because we have nothing filled in there, but that's okay. To calculate the 401k contribution, we're going to take our salaries times the absolute value of E6, okay? So let's go ahead and take our wages. So if we made $50,000 in our first year, and we're going to go ahead and contribute 10% of that, let's multiply it by the 10%, and we want absolute value. So I'm going to click up here and do my F4 so that doesn't change on me when I drag my formula down. I'm going to double click on this one, see if it's working the way I want it to, and it looks like it is. Income is another one where in your very first year you would be earning income on a 0 balance. So we can go ahead and set up our formula here and drag it down. Okay. So for income, we're going to take our beginning balance times the absolute of income cell E5. So we're taking our beginning balance, multiplying it by the absolute value of income, because in the stock market, we think we're going to earn 10%. Let me absolute value that with my F4. And I'm going to pull that cell down. And it's not working yet because we don't have a value in beginning balance. So let's go ahead and do our last formula building here, which is ending balance. And for ending balance, we're looking for the ending balance of your retirement fund. So we're going to do a sum, and we can go ahead and highlight all the cells that we want to include in our sum, which would be our beginning balance, what we've contributed for the year, and what we've earned for the year. First year is always kind of rough here. So the very first year, we've contributed $5,000. We had nothing in our beginning balance, and we didn't earn anything on the beginning balance. So our ending balance is $5,000. But let's pull that down, and we end up gaining a little bit more speed here in the second year because now we're earning income on our beginning balance, plus we're contributing more for the year. So you can kind of see how these formulas are set up. So you would simply, at this point, take all your formulas and drag them down. I'm going to give you another hint. You should have more than $1 million in your ending balance when you are all done with this spreadsheet if you've done the assignment correctly. This assignment is kind of fun to play with different scenarios. So once you get your spreadsheet done and you submit it, go ahead, play around with some of the inputs. Maybe you're in school right now and you're expecting that your wages are going to increase at a certain point once you get that degree. Or possibly you want to change your 401k percentage, see what difference it makes over the life of this spreadsheet if you contribute with your employer match maybe 12% instead of 10%. So I encourage you to play around with the different scenarios and see how your retirement savings changes as a result. This concludes the hints for independent homework 3. Please remember to submit the 2 files, both the replicating exercise we covered in Learning Plan 3, as well as the independent homework in a single submission for grading by the deadline indicated on your syllabus.